This is the story of a man who lived most of his life unnoticed, not because he wanted to disappear, but because the world never seemed to notice him in the first place. He had no degree, no powerful friends, no special talent that made people stop and look twice. He was just there, working, surviving, existing. And every night, while the city lights stayed on for people chasing their dreams, he cleaned up after them. His name was Marcus. He was 34 years old. Every evening at 9:30 p.m., he walked through the glass doors of a large office building in the center of the city. During the day, those offices were filled with people in sharp suits, talking about numbers, deals, strategies, and growth. But at night, they belonged to him, or at least that's what it looked like, because Marcus didn't work in those offices. He cleaned them. He mopped the floors. He emptied the trash. He wiped fingerprints off glass tables where important decisions had been made just hours earlier. Sometimes he would pause, just for a second, and look around, wonder mixed with sadness, at the large screens, at the expensive chairs, at the framed certificates on the walls. And he would think quietly, how did they get here? Marcus wasn't lazy. That was the part that hurt the most. He worked every single day. He showed up on time. He never complained. But somehow, nothing ever changed. His apartment was small. Not the kind of small that feels cozy, but the kind that feels temporary. Like life had paused there and forgotten to press play again. There was a thin mattress on the floor, a table with one chair, a flickering light that buzzed at night, and silence. Too much silence. Every morning, when Marcus returned home around 6:30 a.m., the world was just beginning to wake up. People were heading to work. Coffee shops were opening. The city felt alive. But for him, that was the end of the day. He would close his door, fall onto the mattress, and disappear into sleep, while the rest of the world moved forward without him. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into years. And somewhere along the way, Marcus stopped asking himself if things would ever change, because the answer felt obvious. They wouldn't. Until one night, something small happened. Something so simple, most people would have ignored it. But for Marcus, it became the moment everything shifted. It was a Tuesday. Cold. Quiet. The kind of night where the building felt emptier than usual. Marcus was cleaning one of the executive offices on the top floor. This office was different. Bigger, warmer, more personal. There were books on the shelf, a framed photo of a family, and a large wooden desk with a soft light glowing over it. As Marcus wiped the surface of the desk, his hand stopped. There was a notebook lying open. Not a laptop, not a phone. Simple notebook. He hesitated. He wasn't supposed to look, but something about it pulled him in. He leaned closer and read the first line written across the page. Most people stay poor, not because they lack effort, but because they never learn how to use their time. Marcus froze. He read it again, slowly, this time letting the words sink deeper. He looked around. The office was empty, silent. For the first time in years, he didn't feel tired. Still, he felt curious. He sat down carefully in a chair that wasn't his. Turning point begins, and turned the page. There were notes, ideas, plans. schedules. Everything was organized. Every hour of the day had a purpose. Every action had intention. Immersed. Marcus didn't realize how much time had passed. He just kept reading. Page after page. Thought after thought. Until something inside him shifted. Revelation. Because for the first time, he saw something he had never seen before. Different way to live. Not harder, not luckier, just more intentional. That night, Marcus didn't go home at 6:30 a.m. He sat there, thinking, staring at the empty page in front of him, hope returning. And for the first time in years, he asked himself a question he had stopped asking. What if my life doesn't stay like this? The question scared him because it meant something dangerous. Hope. But this time, he didn't push it away. Resolved, he stood up, finished his work, and walked out of the building. The sky was still dark. The city was quiet. It was 4:52 a.m. Took a deep breath, decision point, firm, and made a decision that would change everything. I'm not going to sleep yet. It sounded small, almost meaningless, stronger, but it wasn't, because for the first time, Marcus was choosing what to do with his time instead of letting time decide for him. He walked home slowly. Contrast, not with exhaustion, but with intention. When he entered his apartment, he didn't lie down. Step by step, deliberate. He sat at the table, turned on the light, opened his phone, and searched how to learn a new skill online. The first 30 minutes were hard. His eyes were heavy. His body was tired. Every part of him wanted to quit, but he didn't, because something inside him had already changed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was starting. And that morning, Marcus stayed awake for 2 extra hours. Just 2. It didn't feel like much, but it was everything. The next day, he did it again, and the next, and the next. At first, it felt impossible. Internal resistance. His body resisted. His mind complained. His habits fought back. But Marcus had made a quiet promise, and for the first time in his life, he kept it. Weeks passed. Something strange started to happen. The mornings became easier. The silence became peaceful. The time he once wasted became the most important part of his day. From 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., Marcus was no longer a cleaner. He was a student. He learned basic computer skills, then spreadsheets, then data, then systems. He didn't rush. He didn't try to be perfect. He just showed up every single day. 2 hours, that was it. But those 2 hours were building something invisible. Confidence, noticing change. By the second month, Marcus started to notice something else. He walked differently, spoke differently, thought differently. The world hadn't changed, but he had. And that changed everything. One night, while cleaning, he saw the same notebook again. This time, he didn't need to read it, knowing, because he understood it. Time wasn't the problem. How he used it was. New chapter. By the 3rd month, Marcus did something he had never done before. He created something, a simple system, a spreadsheet, a way to track inventory for the building's maintenance supplies. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And when his supervisor saw it, he paused. Who made this? Marcus hesitated. Quiet courage, then answered quietly. I did. That moment changed everything. Not instantly, not dramatically, but permanently. Because for the first time, someone saw him.